I'm Paul Campbell. I was president of the association in 2015. I joined, of course, with my registration, and back in the 70s and 80s, I was active on the council. I was approached to run for president in 2014, for vice president, and I'd always really enjoyed the association. Of course, I got too busy with various other community organizations, so it was just a perfect time to come back into the arms of the association. My favorite subject in high school was always geometry, and I really liked it a lot, and it's kind of too bad that they don't have careers for geometrists. However, civil engineering is quite close to geometry, and I really liked fitting things together on the larger scale. So I chose civil engineering, and it couldn't have been a better choice for me personally and as some of my abilities. My favorite moment as president was during the banquet, the annual banquet, which I was hosting, and apart from telling them about the wonderful experience I had, like at student science fairs and the like, I remember that my favorite thing of that evening and my most memorable statement was that I was so pleased to be in the middle of such two great female presidents that we had in the association. Before me was Christine Plourde, and after was Annie Daig, and that really was a great accomplishment when I thought of it, because they are such high-quality women, and to be presidents of the association and for me to work with both of them was my favorite moment of the presidency. Well, we always had a lot of fun on council. I can't remember a particularly funny event, but I do remember what I found funny was going to a science fair up here. We hosted the National Science Fair during my presidency, and I went up to a couple of young fellows, young budding scientists, and they were working a solar reflector, a parabolic type device, and the young fellow said, "Well, solar, sir," he says, "no moving parts." And I looked at him and I said, "What about the electrons?" And he looked at me as if I knew something. So I was feeling pretty good about that I had impressed this young fellow that the electrons were the only moving parts of the solar assembly. So then I went on to the next exhibit, and I asked these two young fellas, I said, so I was feeling pretty good, eh? And I said, "What do you boys know about entropy?" And the first kid said, "Well, sir, nirvana can sometimes be mistaken for moral entropy." So it was like that. And then the next kid held up a package of gum and said, "And sir, in a million years, this won't be here." So that's when I decided I was glad I stuck to the sewer and water. And that was the funniest thing that happened to me. I had run, well, it's certainly not a campaign. You make a little statement for election. And I said I would like to delve into climate change mitigation. And that's part of what attracted me to the job, is that sometimes if a president has interest, it can be expressed through council policy and maybe a project or two here and there. Christine, who preceded me, was a strong advocate for women in engineering, so she had a lot of stuff, and the council and the staff were very supportive on her efforts to introduce more opportunities for women in engineering. So I asked, I said, well, would climate change mitigation be a reasonable kind of pet project to have? And certainly it was. And so we installed 50 solar panels on our building down at the bottom of Hamwell Road, and that's been a pretty successful project. And that just came through the evolution of the role on council, and to talk to council, say, would you be interested in that? And course, our CEO, Andrew McLeod, was very much behind it and very helpful, and other engineers were. So I'd say that was my favorite accomplishment of my term, along with the establishment of our Climate Change Committee, which is inputting into various sectors and various government agencies and collaborative groups trying to address the matter of climate change, because it had been on a concern of mine for a long time. So I got my chance to do my little bit during my term as president. Andy knows his job very well, and he's very helpful, and he's got his hands full with a lot of stuff. So, and he pays a lot of attention to the president. So he told me when I was elected, I guess, second vice president, he says, okay, well, no, vice president. He said, we're going to own you for 3 years. And he keeps you on a pretty close communication line, which is really good, because an organization needs strong leadership at the staff level nowadays. And yeah, he was very, very helpful to me. Andrew McLeod, the current CEO's mother, Sheila, was the CEO when I was on council. So it's kind of a nice little continuum there. And Sheila was very capable. And of course, during that time, again, for a woman to be involved at such a high level with what was then a almost completely male-dominated organization, certainly the council was at that time. And she did a great job, so he filled her shoes very, very well. My involvement in the association is mainly due to my personal makeup. I really like to contribute, and give back. So I learned that from my parents, and I've always done that with lots of organizations. But I'd say my role as president of this association was my highest level of accomplishment in volunteerism. But I like to be involved with a lot of things. So this has been a great time for me. Regarding the future of the association and the future of the profession, the association will continue to be self-regulatory. I'm positive of that, given our constitution and the way we've operated and proven ourselves in the past. Regarding the future for engineering, I mentioned my concerns about climate change, and they're becoming more real and recognized to the general populace. I think that I've been aware of the scientific studies for many years that we have to find new technologies to power the planet. And so again, the little solar project that we had was a nice sampling of that. We led by example. We showed that we could be early adopters. But in the big picture of addressing climate change for the worldwide climate, engineers and geoscientists are going to be carrying a big part of that load. Most of it, when you really come down to what has to be done, there's a lot of administrative and bureaucratic and government policy matters that have to be addressed. But solving the physical problem, a lot of it is going to come to the engineers and scientists. I guess the advice I would give an incoming president would be to just keep the group, happy, and they're a happy group anyway, and everyone gets along, and there's never been any friction that I've ever seen on any council I ever served on, and that goes for the council and the staff relationships. So again, maybe that's a hallmark of engineers and geoscientists, that we're cooperative, and we work and we're schooled in type cooperative environments, say so. But still, the role of president is to keep things moving on a nice pace at which people are enjoying themselves. So that's easy. I don't have a lot of the bureaucratic skills that a lot of presidents do have, so I relied on staff, and that's another suggestion I would say. Staff know the job better than anyone, of course. So, and then one of the past presidents one time, I said, well, you know, how much work is it and what do you have to do and everything? And he says, don't worry about anything, the staff will do everything. With regards to how I feel having been president of the association, I'd say there is a nice accomplishment. Timing, I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time, like most situations. And I think just to have contributed to it, and having gone there in the years, this is probably a little bit personal, but they have the photographs of all the presidents, the past presidents, up on their on the walls of the council chamber. And it is nice to see my photograph in there among all the great engineers that came before us and to be part of that. So in that sense, you do have a little piece in history, and that's a nice piece to take away from it, that, you know, my grandchildren will be in there someday and they'll say, oh, there's old Grampy. And that's a great part of legacy to have.